It was nearly a century after the Great Destruction. Humanity was trying to build a new order from the ruins. Nature had reasserted its supremacy over humans. Vast forests, mountains and vast deserts had reclaimed the world outside the settlements. Legends lived on as the voices of those who witnessed those days. The bard was a shaman living in this age. The signs he saw in his dreams and the secrets whispered by nature made him a guide and protector. One night, Bard had not an ordinary dream but a vision. In this vision, a cave came before his eyes. The stone pillars surrounding the entrance to the cave glittered with ancient symbols that had lost their meaning. As he entered, he saw lines on the stone floor glowing with strange, pale blue lights. The vision ended deep inside the cave and Bard awoke with a sense of presence. In the morning, Bard decided that his vision was a sign from the nature spirits. He did not know where the cave was, but he believed that if he paid attention to the signs around him, he would find the way. Before leaving his village, he visited the village sage in search of a leather scroll full of old stories. Although the old sage did not know anything directly about the cave the bard asked about, he gave him some clues about the power of stones that people used in harmony with nature before the Great Destruction. The bard was sure that his vision was not a simple dream, but a sign sent to him by the spirits of nature. But before he acted, he wanted to better understand the meaning of his visions and make sure he was on the right path. So he decided to go to the village sanctuary and organize a ritual to communicate with the spirits. The bard gathered soil, charcoal and some plant extracts from around the village so that he could draw patterns similar to the symbols he had seen in the images of the cave. He drew a circle and placed symbols inside the circle that he could focus on. He lit a fire in the center of the circle and called out to the nature spirits. "O spirits of forest and stone, guide me. Guide me to the right place to learn the meaning of this power I do not know." The dancing flames of the fire suddenly took on a blue color. A light wind began to swirl in the circle and a voice whispered in the bard's mind. "See and remember. The path is in the lines of nature. Pass under the trees, read the secret of the stones." When the ritual was over, Bard closed his eyes and saw the cave once more. But this time he noticed distinct landmarks on the path to the cave. Trees growing in strange shapes, bright gray stones and a river. These images pointed west, away from the village. The next morning, the bard set out to follow the signs he had seen in the ritual. The village elder had told him that there were some maps left over from the Great Destruction. Bard stopped by the sage's house and picked up an old and worn leather map. Although there were no cave-like symbols or markings on the map, he was able to locate the rivers and mountains he had seen in the ritual. He knew the journey would be long and dangerous. The bard set off with a few days' food on his back, a leather water skin and a shaman's staff. The first days of the journey were calm. Nature gave Bard a sense of home, but also presented him with challenges and unfamiliar territory. The tracks of various animals and strange stone formations convinced Bard that he was on the right path. But at the end of the third day he noticed something strange. There were marks in the soil that resembled the symbols he had seen in the ritual. It was as if someone or something had marked the path to the cave. At the end of the third day, the bard reached a clearing in a deep forest. Here he decided to spend the night. He built himself a small fire, arranged stones around it in a ritualistic circle and prayed for protection from the nature spirits. Although he was tired, his mind was still haunted by the traces and visions he had seen. As the night wore on, the bard's eyelids grew heavy. Just as he was about to fall asleep, he suddenly heard a sound, an unspeakable melody echoing in the wind. Once again the sound drew him into a deep vision. The bard found himself inside the cave. This time he was traveling deeper into the cave. The symbols on the stones burned brightly, then disappeared completely. When he reached the end of the cave, he saw a huge stone door in front of him. On the door were symbols unlike any language he knew. But the bard knew their meaning instinctively. Power opens only to those who follow the path of nature. A light appeared in front of the stone door. This light gave the bard a final sign to reach the cave. Steam rising from the foot of a mountain and stone pillars in a forest. Then the vision ended. Bard woke with a start. His fire had almost gone out and the night had fallen into deep silence. The signs he had seen in his vision seemed to complete the directions from the ritual. Now he knew how to reach the cave. He had to head towards the mountains marked on the map. The bard marked the entire route to the cave on the map and quickly packed up and set off. This stage of the journey was now more dangerous. He felt as if darkness lurked behind the calm face of nature. When he reached the foot of the mountain, he found the stone pillars and rising steam he had seen in his vision. The entrance to the cave was now very close. When the bard reached the foot of the mountain, he immediately recognized the stone pillars he had seen in his dream. The pillars surrounded the entrance to the cave, and on them were symbols worn by time. These symbols were the same as in his visions. But the bard stopped before he took a step. The air was suddenly heavy. He felt a strange tension around him. As he approached, he noticed something on the ground between the stone pillars. There were branches and bushes above the ground as if they had been arranged. When he examined them carefully, he realized that they had not been placed there naturally, but might have been placed there for a trap. Bending down and pushing the branches aside slightly, he saw a trap made of sharp stones hidden below. If he had stepped carelessly, this trap could have seriously injured him. The bard carefully deactivated the trap. By cutting the ropes between the branches, he destroyed the effectiveness of the stone trap. But this raised a question: whose work was this trap? Had humans planted it, or had some other being waiting in the cave taken such a precaution to protect itself? As they approached the cave entrance, the symbols on the pillars began to glow faintly. For the bard, this was both a warning and an invitation. He was sure that the door in his visions was right here. At the entrance to the cave, the bard saw that a deep darkness awaited him. A light breeze from inside seemed to carry the melody he had heard in his vision. But Bard did not step inside yet. As a shaman, he knew he had to be prepared for danger. Bard paused before stepping into the entrance of the cave. His shaman training had given him the ability to sense nature's signs and hidden dangers. He carefully examined the stone pillars and floor around the entrance. A trap so well hidden meant there could be others. On a ledge next to the pillars, he noticed fine lines carved into the surface of the stones. These lines looked like simple decorative ornaments, but a closer look suggested that they could be part of a mechanism. Bard noticed a narrow slit between the stones. Inside was a small piece of stone that seemed to be attached to a string or mechanism. Bard carefully leaned down next to the stone crevice. He did not know what this mechanism would trigger if he moved carelessly. Using the shaman's wand in his hand, he tried to dislodge the stone mechanism. There was a slight click as the stone was dislodged, and a boulder hanging from the ceiling of the cave quickly fell to the ground in front of Bard. If he had dived in, this boulder could easily have crushed him. Bard took a deep breath. He knew now that the traps were not just randomly placed, but deliberately designed to protect the cave. This was proof that what was hiding inside was anything but ordinary. But these dangers only fueled Bard's desire to explore even more. Bard checked the floor and walls again, and after making sure that he had found no other traps, he took the first step into the cave. As he entered, the melodic voice echoed once more from the darkness. It was clearer now. It was the call of a being, as if it was waiting for Bard to arrive. As Bard stepped through the entrance of the cave, the air inside suddenly changed. The darkness just beyond the entrance completely swallowed the daylight of the outside world. On the walls of the cave, the symbols he had seen during the ritual glowed faintly. These glows were like signs that showed the Bard the way. The melodic voice now echoed without interruption, as if calling him deeper and deeper with each step. As he entered the cave, the stone floor began to change. He realized that he was walking on slabs of carefully cut and arranged stone, rather than naturally formed rock. The symbols on the walls began to take on a clear meaning, shapes representing the cycles of life, death, and nature. Bard realized that this was no ordinary cave, but the traces of a much older civilization. Bard continued to follow the sound and eventually reached a large room. It was a room with a high ceiling hidden deep inside the cave. The stone pillars in the room were similar to the pillars at the entrance, but the symbols on them were much more intricate. In the center of the floor, a large stone platform rose, and on it were glowing symbols that resembled magical inscriptions. Bard approached carefully and began to study the writing carved into the sides of the stone platform. The writing did not resemble any language the Bard knew, but as he laid his hands on the texture of the writing, images began to appear in his mind. It was as if the meaning of the inscriptions was being conveyed directly to the Bard. The message that came into the Bard's mind was like a direct warning. This power is available only to those who know the rhythms of nature and are in harmony with it. If it is only wisdom you seek, turn back. But if you seek more, be ready to unlock the secrets of nature. The inscriptions told the Bard that this place could be entered not only with wise curiosity, but also with great responsibility. The melody now seemed to come from beneath the stone platform. Bard carefully examined the symbols in the center of the platform and realized that they triggered a mechanism that would open a door. Bard recognized the power of the symbols on the platform, but he could not ignore the seriousness of the warning. He felt he could not deal with this power without the guidance of the nature spirits. He began to look carefully around the platform. He decided to look for other clues in the surroundings to understand the continuation of the inscriptions and to better grasp the secrets of this place. In the corners of the room, he found different reliefs that clearly belonged to an ancient civilization. These reliefs represented different elements of nature: a mountain rising in the midst of a storm, a huge creature swimming in deep waters, and a tree with roots reaching out to the earth. These figures made the bard think that this cave was not only a storehouse of knowledge, but also a temple to the most fundamental forces of nature. After a while, the bard noticed a small hole in one corner of the walls, glowing with faint light. The melody coming from it sounded more like a warning whisper than a call. It was as if this cave had been built to ensure that the power inside was only used by the right person. After gathering the information, the bard decided to prepare a ritual rite in front of the platform. He took a small leather pouch from his bag and placed the sacred herbs and stones he carried in it around the platform. After forming the ritual circle, he used a flint to light a fire. As the dance of the flames gently lit the room, the bard called out to the nature spirits. "O spirits of mountain, wind, and water, guide me to the wisdom of those who created this place. Light my paths, judge my intentions, and test my heart." The flames of the fire suddenly flickered with a blue light. In the bard's mind, symbols from the world surrounding the cave began to appear. He visualized an energy starting from the roots of a tree and flowing towards the center of the platform. This energy was teaching Bard how to activate the symbols on the platform. But the nature spirits gave a final warning. "If you open this door, not only answers but tests await you. Be ready to return." The bard heeded the nature spirits' warning and waited a while longer. The spirits had made it clear that the trials he would face on this path would require not only courage, but also wisdom and dedication. But Bard could not quite understand what these trials were. He sat on a stone by the ritual fire and closed his eyes, wishing the spirits would show him a new vision. Suddenly his mind was filled with a powerful light rising from the depths of the cave. The bard found himself in a different place, in a valley. Here he faced 3 trials. 1. The trial of the wind. Bard had to stand amidst the storms and find the right path the wind whispered to him. 2. The trial of water. In a deep and dark lake he had to search for a secret in the waters. But there was a creature waiting for him under the lake. 3. The trial of the land. He had to climb a mountain, but with every step the mountain tried to push him back. In the vision, the bard realized that each trial was connected to an element of nature and that he had to overcome these trials to gain the power of spirits. When the vision ended, he took a deep breath and thanked the spirits. He did not yet know whether these trials were a warning or part of a real future. After grasping the seriousness of the trials in the vision, the bard decided that he needed to enlist the support of the spirits more strongly. He took more sacred herbs and several talismans from his bag. He widened the circle of stones around the fire and lit the plants, causing the smoke to rise. The smoke traveled up the cave walls, making the symbols even brighter. He addressed the spirits once more. "Test me, but do not cease to show me the right path. I am a student of nature. I am open to what you have to teach me." This time the symbols in the cave began to move. The symbols on the platform were merging with each other, forming new patterns. Bard felt that the spirits were now ready and had given him permission to use this power. Bard approached the center of the platform based on the signs given by the spirits. He placed his hands on the symbols as the spirits showed him. He recited a shamanic prayer about the cycle of nature, and as he touched the symbols, the platform began to tremble. A vibration rose from the floor and a deep hum filled the cave. A light appeared in the center of the platform. This light indicated that a door had opened and beckoned Bard deeper into the cave. Remembering the spirit's warning, Bard hesitated for a moment, but finally stepped through the door, determined to unlock the secrets of this power. As the door slowly opened, a dark corridor stretched out before Bard. The melody from within was now clearly audible, calling Bard deeper and deeper. He stepped into the corridor, trusting the spirits for guidance. As the air grew colder, new symbols began to appear on the walls. These symbols radiated an energy far more complex and powerful than anything Bard had ever seen before. After walking for a while, Bard found himself in a large room. This room was even larger than the first room on the platform. Darkness hid the height of the ceiling, but on the floor and walls were hundreds of inscriptions. They were in a language that the Bard did not recognize, but whose meaning he felt. In the center of the room stood a huge stone tablet. It seemed to be a storehouse of knowledge that could explain the secrets of the cave and the meaning of the tests. As Bard approached the tablet, the symbols on the surface of the stone began to flicker with a faint light. As he touched the tablet with his hands, his mind was once again filled with a vision. In this vision he saw the people of an ancient civilization who had once lived in this cave. These people understood the forces of nature and used the cave as a temple to control them. But these powers came at a price. Anyone who wanted to obtain the power of nature had to pass 3 tests that tested their limits and desires. The tablet revealed the details of the tests to the bard. 1. The test of the wind tests mental balance and determination. Only he who hears the whispers of nature can find his way through the storms. 2. The test of water, it requires facing fears. You have to overcome your inner fears to find the secrets hidden in the depths. 3. The test of the earth, it tests physical strength and resistance. Nature both protects and tests you. The bard realized that the trials were not only tests, but also proof of this civilization's connection to nature. This cave was a guide to understanding the true power of nature. But the last part of the tablet gave Bard another warning. These trials are only for those who will devote themselves to the service of nature. If your desire is not pure, your path ends here. The bard recoiled at the tablet's warning. His need for the guidance of the spirits had become even more apparent. He decided to organize another ritual in the center of the cave. He placed a stronger mixture of the herbs he had used in the previous ritual around the platform and recited a prayer of protection in front of the tablet. This time the fire illuminated the whole room, reflecting the lights of the tablet. The symbols began to take on new meanings in the bard's mind. The spirits seemed to confirm the bard's sincere intentions. A figure emerged from the fire, a combination of the energies of wind, water, and earth. The spirits whispered to the bard once more. Your path is clear. Prepare for trials to understand the secrets of nature. Bard felt stronger with the support of the spirits. He studied the symbols on the tablet again, trying to understand how to begin the first stage of the trials. When he activated a mechanism at the bottom of the tablet, the stones on the floor began to move apart and a door appeared in front of the bard, leading to 3 different paths. These paths were the beginning of the trials. Bard looked carefully down one of the 3 paths. The spirits whispered melodies, telling him that the first path led to the test of the wind. A gentle breeze seemed to draw Bard to that path. He took a deep breath, trusted the spirits, chose this path and began to move forward. As he passed through a narrow corridor, the wind grew stronger and stronger. When he reached the end of the corridor, he found himself in a huge open space. It looked like a vast valley, but the wind was so strong that it was difficult to even stand. From every corner of the valley, the whispers of the winds rose and mingled together, creating an echo of sound that was hard to understand. Bard realized that the test had begun. Before Bard were 3 different paths, all similar to each other. But they were shrouded in an ever-changing fog created by the wind. Each seemed to lead in a dangerous direction. The bard knew he could not find the right path without the guidance of the spirits. The whispers of the wind echoed like a song and Bard had to decide which voice to follow. He remembered one of the symbols on the platform, the loop. It was a sign that he needed to understand the rhythm of nature. Bard closed his eyes, focused on the sound of the wind and tried to feel the right path with his instincts. Bard stood still for a while and listened to the sounds the wind carried from different directions. One sound was more gentle and melodic than the others, as if it was pointing him in the right direction. Bard decided to follow it. As he started down the first path, the wind died down a little. He believed he had chosen the right path, but this was only the beginning. The path became narrower and narrower and the wind picked up again. A stone bridge appeared in front of the bard. But crossing the bridge would not be easy. The wind was constantly shaking the bridge, making it unstable. Bard called out to the spirits once more. "O spirits of the wind, give me strength and balance. I will honor your path." As he crossed the bridge, he had to take each step carefully. He stumbled a few times, but it was as if the wind suddenly began to help the bard. He felt the approval of the spirits. At the end of the bridge, Bard found a small stone platform. On the platform were carved patterns that looked like wind symbols. When Bard placed his hands on the stone filled with symbols, the wind suddenly stopped. The whole area fell silent and Bard heard the spirit's message. The wind guides not only those who change direction, but also those who understand it. Your courage and insight have passed your first test. A light appeared above the platform and Bard realized that this light was the key to unlock the door to the other trials in the cave. This light brought with it a sense of peace within Bard. By the end of the trial, Bard understood the power of the wind. Having successfully passed the first path, he was one step closer to unlocking the secrets of the cave. Now he had to return to the center of the cave and prepare for the other tests. Having successfully passed the test of the wind, Bard returned to the center of the cave. He felt that the first test was both physically and mentally taxing. He decided to stop and rest in order to fully grasp the message the spirits had given him and to prepare for the next test. He sat down next to the platform in the center of the cave. He visualized the wind patterns, the symbol of the first test. He remembered the message of the spirits. The wind guides not only those who change direction, but also those who understand it. These words made it clear to the bard that the trials were not only physical, but also had an inner meaning. The trial of the wind had taught him about the mutability of nature and the need to adapt to it. Bard knew that this understanding would guide him through the next trial. While resting, the bard decided to organize a small ritual to share the energy of the first test with the spirits. He took out incense and sacred herbs from his bag. He lit the fire and let the smoke rise. He called out to the spirits. "O spirits of nature, you have given me both patience and wisdom. I walked the path you showed me in the first test, and now I need your guidance again as I prepare for a new test." Smoke drifted over the walls of the cave, reanimating the symbols. The bard listened for a while to the silence of the spirits. Soon he heard a whisper. "Deep in the water, find the courage to overcome your fears." This message made it clear that the next test would require Bard to face his fears. Bard realized that the courage and balance he had learned in the test of the wind would have to be applied to the test of the water. At the end of the ritual, Bard rested for a while, breathing in the calm energy of the cave. He had complete faith in the guidance of the spirits. He knew now that the trials were not just tests, but journeys that strengthened his connection with nature. He took a deep breath and stood up. Now he was ready. The bard decided to head towards the second path to prepare for the second test, the test of the water. He summoned the courage to unravel the secrets hidden in the depths and to understand the messages the water whispered to him. Bard stepped onto the second path, keeping the message of the spirits and what he had learned from the test of the wind in his mind. This path began with a stone corridor that descended deeper into the cave. On the walls along the corridor were symbols that resembled waves of water. The bard sensed that these signs were part of the test. Trusting in the spirits, he continued onward. The corridor eventually opened into a large cave room. In the center of the room was a lake, silent and dark. The water of the lake was still. Its surface seemed almost as calm as a mirror. But the bard knew that this calm was an illusion. He remembered the whispers of the spirits. "In the depths of the water, find the courage to overcome your fears." Bard approached the edge of the lake. As soon as he looked into the water, he saw his own reflection. But this reflection was different. His face was older, tired and darker than usual. It was as if the reflection was showing Bard his inner fears and weaknesses. The reflection began to speak. "You want to go to the depths. But the depths require not only courage but truth. Are you honest with yourself, Bard? Do you really have a heart pure enough to seek this power?" Bard paused for a moment. He realized that this test was more of a mental challenge than a physical one. He took a deep breath and answered his reflection. "My heart may not be pure, but my intention is to understand the secrets of nature. If this test will test me, I am ready for it." The reflection suddenly disappeared and the surface of the lake began to ripple. The bard realized that these ripples had begun the second stage of the test. A light appeared in the center of the lake. Bard realized that this light contained the secret of the test. He had no choice but to enter the water. Setting aside the shaman's staff in his hand, he stepped gently into the lake. The water was cold and heavy at first, but as Bard fully submerged, he felt a warmth. As he went deeper into the lake, light began to guide him. Suddenly, however, the water surrounding Bard began to darken. Vague shadows moved in the water, whispers reaching his mind. These shadows seemed to represent Bard's past fears and regrets. Bard had to face his fears. As the shadows drew closer to the bard, each one represented a memory. His mistakes when he first set out on the path of shamanism, his moments of inability to protect his village, his failures. It was as if the shadows were blaming Bard. But Bard, guided by the spirits, pulled himself together and standing in the water, shouted, "The past does not define me. I follow the path of the spirits and my courage will carry me." With his words, the shadows began to disappear one by one. The water lit up again and Bard reached the source of the light. On a stone platform at the bottom of the lake were inscriptions like the symbols of the water. Bard placed his hands on the platform. Suddenly the water swirled around him and the symbols on the stone began to glow. The voice of the spirits echoed in his mind once more. "The power of water is the power of those who accept their fears and overcome them. You have earned the right to understand the secret of the depths." The water slowly carried the bard up and brought him to the surface of the lake. Now he had passed the test of the water and was ready for the next stage. The bard walked out of the lake and back to the center of the cave. He had passed both the tests of the wind and the water. Now came the third test, the test of the earth. After successfully completing the test of the water, Bard returned to the center of the cave. Both the tests of wind and water had given him not only physical strength, but also deep wisdom. But before he began the third test, the test of the earth, he decided to perform a ritual to understand the knowledge he had gained and the guidance of the spirits. He again formed a ritual circle around the platform in the center. He took out sacred herbs, stones, and shamanic talismans from his bag and placed them inside the circle. When he lit the fire, this time the flames glowed as if reflecting the courage he had gained from the test of the wind and the inner peace he had gained from the test of the water. Closing his eyes, the bard addressed the spirits. "O spirits of nature, I accept the lessons you have taught me. The wind has taught me balance and change, the water has taught me to face my fears. Now I want to be ready for the third test. Offer me your strength and guidance once more." As the smoke rose from the fire, the symbols came alive again on the walls of the cave. A vision appeared in the bard's mind. In this vision, wind and water mingled together, forming a force deep in the earth. The spirits sent a final message to the bard. The earth is the foundation of life. You must be ready to feel its power, not only physically but spiritually. It will test you by your roots. The bard understood that this message was a hint of what awaited him in the test of the earth. The spirits would test not only his physical endurance, but also his connection to nature. At the end of the ritual, Bard felt the energy the spirits gave him. It had cleansed him of fatigue and cleared his mind. Now he felt ready for the third test. He took a deep breath and stood in front of the platform and thanked the spirits. The bard decided to move towards the third path to begin the third test, the test of the earth. It would be the final test of his physical strength and his connection to nature. Feeling ready after the ritual, the bard made his way to the third path. Unlike the other parts of the cave, it was a narrow passage that climbed upwards. The ceiling rose higher and higher and the surrounding stone walls were filled with roots, representing the power of nature. As they made their way up, the bard sensed that this test might be tougher than wind and water. At the end of the pass, he came upon a wide open space. It looked as if it had been carved into a huge mountain. Thick roots rose out of the ground and extended to an invisible point in the ceiling above. But the space immediately presented the bard with a challenge. The ground was uneven, in places made of hard rock, in others of soil too soft to support Bard's weight. The path ahead of Bard was slippery and uneven. The spirit's message came to him: "The earth will test you by your roots." He realized that this was not only a physical challenge, but also a test that required him to remain in harmony with nature. He began to move forward, taking his steps carefully. With each step, the earth seemed to resist him. But the bard walked on, trying to feel the energy of the earth. Occasionally he put his hands on the roots on the walls, feeling their strength. The roots gave off a gentle warmth, as if they were guiding Bard. At the end of the path, the bard came upon a giant stone pillar. The symbols on this pillar indicated that the bard had a burden to carry. At the base of the stone pillar was a large boulder. Remembering the messages the spirits had given him, the bard realized that he had to lift this burden and place it on the marked spot next to the stone pillar. He bent down beside the boulder and tried to lift it. The weight of it strained Bard. His arms began to tremble. But at that moment he remembered his connection with nature. It was as if an energy from the roots was flowing into Bard's body. Empowered by this energy, he lifted the stone and placed it on the spot marked with symbols. As the stone settled, a vibration echoed through the ground and the symbols began to glow. When the vibration ended, a door opened in front of the bard. This door was made of earth and slowly retreated, opening the way for the bard. Behind the door was a small chamber covered with roots. In the center of the chamber was a stone platform carved with the symbol of the earth. Bard approached the platform and placed his hands on the symbols. The voice of the spirits echoed in his mind once more. The earth is the foundation of life. Those who can bear its burden are entitled to learn its secrets. The symbols on the platform taught the bard about the balance and power of nature. The energy of the earth brought peace to the bard's body and soul. Now he had successfully passed the third test. By returning to the center of the cave, Bard had completed all the tests and was one step closer to understanding the secrets of nature. Now he had to discover the final message the spirits would give him and the reward for these trials. After completing the third test, Bard returned to the center of the cave. With the guidance of the spirits, he had passed through the trials of wind, water and earth and was one step closer to understanding the secrets of nature. When he returned to the center, the symbols burned much brighter on the platform. Now he was ready to learn the ultimate message of the spirits and the reward for these trials. The bard came to the front of the platform and knelt down. He placed his hands on the symbols on the platform and addressed the spirits. "O spirits of nature, I have followed the path you showed me. I have written in my heart what I have learned in your trials of wind, water, and earth. Now I want to know the meaning and the reward of this journey." The platform began to tremble and the cave was filled with the energy of the spirits. A swirling wind appeared around the bard, then slowly a stream of water rose from the ground. Finally, roots emerged from the ground and surrounded Bard. These three elements coalesced around the bard to form a figure. This was a being representing the spirits of nature. The figure began to speak. His voice was like the melody of the wind, the murmur of the water, and the deep echo of the earth. "Bard, you have not only passed the exams, but you have also managed to understand the rhythm of nature. Wind, water, and earth are not just elements, they are part of the cycle of life. To understand their power is not to control them, but to live in harmony with them." The figure approached the bard and presented him with a ball of light. This light was the reward for the completion of the trials. The spirits told the bard that this light would provide both protective power and wisdom. This light can only be used by those who are attuned to the rhythms of nature. Carry it as a symbol of balance and consciousness. But remember, it is only when it is used with the right intention that this power unleashes its true potential. When Bard touched the light, its energy flowed into his body. This gave him not only physical strength, but also mental clarity and a deep sense of connection with nature. The spirits made the bard feel what he could do with this power and what role he could play in maintaining the balance of nature. The spirit's voice echoed once more. "Now, leave this cave and share what you have learned with the world. Protect the secrets of nature and stand against those who would upset its balance. Godspeed, Bard." To be continued. Subscribe for more.